Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and I'm pleased to have Emile Avanessian of Hardwood Hype and also a contributor to Foreign Blue and Gold, the ESPN True Hoop Network, with us. And today we're going to talk about the finals and a couple other things. Emile, let's jump right into it. What are your thoughts right now about the Thunder versus the Heat?
How you doing, Nick? So talking about the Thunder and the Heat, um, I think one of the things that's really funny is how the narratives, and everyone kind of on the blogosphere talks about narratives these days, and it's sort of how the pendulum has swung from San Antonio being absolutely unbeatable until the moment that they weren't, and while they were sort of while San Antonio met their demise and Oklahoma City was really sort of turning it on, we saw Miami scuffle a little bit against Boston, and I think the Oklahoma City is really benefiting from, at least in a perception standpoint, from having not played, and we haven't seen them make a mistake in about a week, and we've had a chance to hyperanalyze the Heat. Long story short, I think there's no way I see the series going fewer than 6 games. And I mean, if you put a gun to my head, I would say OKC in 7, but I wouldn't feel good about it.
Wow. Well, yeah, I think everyone is forgetting the fact that the Spurs were a very average defensive team. And, going against Oklahoma City, they just didn't have anything to rely on to stop anybody. And in that case, once they got behind, or if it was a closer game in the late of the third quarter, they basically were going to have to score every time to win those games. And they did that in games 1 and 2, but it just became a frustrating experience watching them because you know that they're not always going to make all those shots they get, and no team will. But the Thunder's defense was so much better than the Spurs. It was not even close, and that's what happened. That's why they won 4 in a row.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think and the first 2 games, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I know the first 2 games, the Thunder were not shooting the ball well. And I think that's something you can maybe count on for a couple of games in a series against the Thunder. But if you don't have, and there was the fluky sort of Perkins Ibaka game too, where they made 18 out of 20 shots, but those are the things that sort of happen on the way to a finals, on the way to the finals or on the way to a championship. Every team sort of gets those, sort of those great games. But I agree with you on the Spurs. I mean, I think they are a good defensive team, but when I think the Thunder were the number 1 team in offensive efficiency this season, and once you get Durant going and, you get kind of average output even from Russell Westbrook and James Harden, I don't know where San Antonio really could have turned, beyond sort of hoping that Tony Parker would torch the OKC defense.
And let's not forget, in games 1 and 2, I believe that the Thunder, I know at least one of them had a lot of points. They had over 100 points in both those losses. So it's not like they were getting shut down at all. And here's my thing about going against the Heat is that the Thunder have not gone against any kind of defense remotely close to how good the Heat play defense. And I think that's going to, not only is that going to be a big deal, but I also think that the experience the Heat have from playing in the finals ends up being one of those things that everyone seems to be overlooking right now.
I do agree with that. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential for, and I don't want to say sort of, I don't know how much I believe in the sort of the big stage, bright lights sort of, storylines, but I mean, I think the way that Russell Westbrook plays almost at this point in his career, almost by definition, I think 1 out of every 3 or 4 games, you might get an absolute stinker. And, so I mean, I think that kind of leaves the door open. The one thing that I think is problematic for Miami, as great a defensive team as they are, the fact that Dwayne Wade has sort of he's got a gimpy left knee. I mean, he's had it drained at least once. I imagine during this break he's getting it, he might have it drained again. And, so he's got sort of a dodgy knee. He has to shoulder a lot of offensive load. And one of his primary responsibilities in the series is going to be chasing around either, Russell Westbrook or James Harden. And I think that could be problematic for Miami. I mean, because something's going to have to give. He's either going to have to, really kind of, go less than full speed on defense to keep something in the tank to help LeBron carry the offensive load, or he's going to wind up killing himself on defense and not have the lift he needs for jumpers.
Yeah, my gut instinct is they probably will have Chalmers try and guard Westbrook a lot more than maybe normal. I'm going to go look through the matchups from this year, but I can't. You're right. I can't see Dwayne Wade chasing Westbrook around and being effective, and then also being able to score on offense. And then otherwise they can have him guard, Cephalosha, and that kind of thing. I think that would help them. I think that Spoelstra has a chance to outcoach Brooks from the beginning because he could conceivably go with Bosch at center, and that would basically force Scott Brooks to have to bench Perkins because Perkins ain't going to guard Bosch out there. And if you leave Perkins and Ibaka out there, then that means Ibaka is going to have to guard LeBron James. And I don't see that happening either because he's not a perimeter defender. So I feel like the Heat, in this weird way, while they may not be favored, they seem to have the most ability to change this series with lineups a lot more than the Thunder do. And, of course, aside from, no one can kind of match up with James Harden anyway, I don't think. I think that Spoelstra might have his first chance to really, going head-to-head with Scotty Brooks, who isn't appreciably better than him necessarily. This might be his chance to finally shine.
I think you bring up a really good point. I think for all we talk about sort of lack of depth with the Miami Heat, they do have, and some of that is thanks to the great versatility of Bosch and LeBron, they're able to really sort of tinker with their lineup in ways that a lot of other teams aren't. The potential exists with OKC as well. They can go Durant at the 4. I guess for maybe 2 or 3 minutes at a time, you could throw Durant at the 5 and just play a completely just sort of a ridiculous, almost like Nelly ball style system. But I think OKC's strength is, outside of obviously the Westbrook, Durant, Harden trio, it's so much is predicated on the fact that they've got Ibaka guarding the rim and the muscle of Perkins. So I think you bring up a really good point. The more time that you can force Scotty Brooks to put one of those two guys on the bench, in favor of sort of, a wing guy or, sort of a smaller player, the more you're sort of taking the Thunder out of what it is they're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, to wrap up this subject, I will tell you what I think is going to happen. I'm going to go with the Heat. I really feel like their experience and their defense is going to help them. Now, of course, if Wade lays an egg and can't move around on his knee, it's just sort of an unfortunate series of events that they can't control. But if Wade can be, good, then I think the Heat are going to win this, really. And again, I don't know if you've seen, but certainly I've been really brutal, on Russell Westbrook, and I've been saying he's not a championship point guard. So I got to back that up somehow. But you know what? He's been taking less shots without passing the ball, and he's been playing a little bit more under control, even though his shooting has been pretty not so great. And turning the ball over less. And I think the turnovers and the quick shots without passing were the one things that were getting under my skin. So, hey, he has changed. I will be the first to admit he has not rubbed me the wrong ways like he did the last couple of years. So it is possible the way he's playing now that they can win it. But I don't know. I see the Heat winning it in, I guess you got to go 7 games.
Yeah, it's, like I said, I guess, like I said, just, one of the, dude, I'm really sorry. I had to, I'm so sorry about that. Is there any way we can edit this thing back together?
Yeah, we could do it.
Okay, because I need to, unfortunately, I think my super's buzzing me from downstairs and he's not going to stop. So give me 1 second.
Okay.
Hello? Hey, folks. No, actually. Can I let you know? Great, thank you. All right, bye.
Wow. That was
I'm so sorry.
Hey,
about that.
maybe we'll leave it in. That's the first time we've ever had a super get in the way of one of our chats.
Oh,
how exciting!
Geez. That was. And I had told him, I was like, I'm doing something. Don't buzz me.
No worries.
And he called to see if I was still doing something.
Well, let's get back to it. So, okay, so we talked about OKC and the Heat. Let's actually shift over to the Lakers and tell me what your thoughts are in the offseason and what's going to happen, where you see them, trying to improve.
Yeah. So this is sort of the several $1 million question. I think the unfortunate thing is, I mean, I've sort of been on record or in print saying that I think more than most, I am pro trading Andrew Bynum, and the problem is that I think the relationship with the organization and Pau Gasol has soured to a point where, I mean, it hasn't soured to the point of sort of public, kind of public outbursts or anything like that, but I don't know if we're at a point where this relationship can ever really be salvaged, you know? And the conversation that I had, actually it was on Forum Blue and Gold, was, I mean, I think the optimal move would be to try to flip Pau Gasol for I mean, I would say he's still got to have top 10 pick value, right? I mean, Houston still wants him, and, I mean, presumably a team that is one great player away would potentially give up a top 8-ish pick and maybe a rotation player, and then do everything possible to turn Andrew Bynum into either Darren Williams or, I guess Dwight Howard. I've sort of soured on Dwight, not as much for his behavior, but more because, back issues scare me. But so, I mean, I guess I'm slightly a proponent of sort of blow the whole thing up. I think that's, and sort of get what you can of the last few years of Kobe's career with, ideally the superstar you can get for Bynum and some young talent that you can bring in.
Yeah, that all sounds good to me. I don't think that it ultimately would be effectual as far as like getting to championship level. I don't see going from where they are now and compared to the landscape of every other team in the West and even the East. I don't see them with any of those kind of moves vaulting over OKC in the next 2 or 3 years, or vaulting over the Heat. You know what I mean? That's really the thing, is they can improve, they can upgrade, but I don't know. I mean, I suppose if they get Dwight Howard, that's the one thing that makes it. I could see that with Kobe and Dwight and whatever, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Dwight Howard has made it pretty clear he doesn't want to go and redo the whole Shaq thing. And so, in fact, what I've been hearing is that the Celtics, of all people, are going to try and do a package deal to get him over to Boston to play with Rondo, which is an interesting idea because they have some assets and they have some things that they might be able to package. But in this day and age, with the way the salary structures are with the CBA, who knows if anybody can do anything.
Now, what have you heard as far as what the Celtics package would be? I mean, would it be sort of is it like a sign and trade with KG, or is it years, or what is it?
No, in my mind, it was going to be KG and Rondo and Dwight Howard playing together. So that means, I mean, there's no real value for Ray Allen, I don't think, and there's probably not a great value for Paul Pierce either. I suppose the biggest value is for Kevin Garnett because he did seem to play better, but he has only got another year left, maybe. And so I don't think there is a real trade value for any of those guys. So it started to buzz a little bit on Twitter. I saw a little bit of that, and I just feel like that just seems to be it all seems to be a long shot, no matter what. And short of a team, it's a very bad team that has a lot of cap room or something can get Dwight Howard, but that means they're not going to be contenders. So you're a proponent. You think that Bynum's going to be gone, or you kind of propose that and Gasol?
Yeah, I mean, I think because Andrew Bynum, I'm not a huge fan of committing another 5-6 years and $90 to $100 million to him. And for as far as the Pau Gasol thing is concerned, it frankly wouldn't surprise me if he's sort of sick of this whole thing. And I mean, I don't know if he would ever sort of request a trade, but I'm playing armchair psychologist. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't reject one.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think, and the thing is, too, I mean, Pau Gasol's going to be making, close to $20 million a year for the next 2 years. And there's really not a sense in paying him $20 million a year into his mid-30s for what is presumably not going to be a title contender.
Right. Well, I don't know. Anybody who can get Pau Gasol and willing to pay for him and gets good production is going to be one of those guys who can see into the future because, right now, based on what you've seen the last year and a half, it's not worth what they're paying him. And it's possible it's a situation, and if they can get him into a different kind of setting, he'll go back to what he was doing. But we shall see. Well, that about wraps up our time we have for today. Everybody, might make sure that you go on Twitter and follow Emile at Hardwood Hype. It's a great follow and a lot of interesting conversations going on. I know I've had one with him, and we'll have to see. But my answer again is the Heat in 7. I think Bynum doesn't go anywhere. And Emile, thank you for joining us, and we hope to have you on soon.
You got it. I guess I've tentatively got OKC in 7, and I'd ship Drew out.
Well, we shall see. All right, sports fans, stay tuned for lots more coming up this week at B-Ball Breakdown.